Delmarva Today with Don Rush.
The Antares rocket rose up into the sky this week on a resupply mission to the International Space Station. The mayor of Salisbury responds to criticism by rights groups over the lack of progress by a racial unity committee. There's more turmoil as the Wicomico County executive promises to take the council to court. Another candidate enters the race for Delaware's lone congressional seat. And finally, should we abolish the family court? One longtime advocate says yes. Welcome to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush. In our studio this afternoon is Greg Bassett, editor and general manager of the Salisbury Independent. And on the phone with us is Susan Canfor, reporter for Coastal Point. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Don.
Hi, Don.
But first, we want to turn to Delmarva's Steve Plotkin, who has the sights and sounds of this week's rocket launch from Wallops Flight Facility.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lift off the Antares NG-9 launch vehicle from Wallops facility. Antares taking Northrop Grumman's commercial resupply mission 19 into orbit to the International Space Station.
With a picture-perfect evening sky at Wallops Island, Virginia, promptly at 8:31, the Antares supply rocket gracefully lifted off the pad. It's quite a scene with a huge fireball and thunder from its two rocket motors. As it rose, the 14-story rocket became visible in a dozen states as it chased down the International Space Station to deliver pizza, supplies, and experiments.
As I understand it, Steve, there is a Ukrainian connection to this particular flight.
The actual lower section, that big tube that contains all the fuel, I believe was manufactured in Ukraine, and the two rocket engines were actually from Russia and refurbished in Ukraine. Ukraine and Russia have a long history of cooperation on aerospace types of things until the war, and that changed everything. So the unavailability of the Russian engines, because they basically cut us off, is one thing. The second is that the factory that builds the cylindrical lower stage of the rocket is being bombed actively. So the U.S. Grumman basically had no choice but to back away and try to do their own thing, an American thing. And so they partnered with this other firm called Firefly Aerospace, and they're proceeding on a new engine design, and I presume also a lower element to the rocket. It's a two-stage rocket, so the entire bottom part of it, except for the engines, was a Ukrainian product.
The other thing is that I understand this is going to be the last of it, at least for a while, when it comes to Wallops.
This was the last shot of the Antares until mid-2025, when they anticipate that this new model that they're developing will work. They'll run some tests, and they're scheduled now to start shooting from Wallops Island mid-2025, and then I think they scheduled 4 shots already contracted to with NASA. They are contracted until 2026 to continue supplying the space station, basically twice a year.
We've been speaking with Steve Plotkin, who's been covering the Wallops Flight Facility. We appreciate you stopping by and chatting with us.
Have a great day.
So, Greg, this is a big deal locally.
It really is. For years we kept hearing, when Wallops gets to this stage, it's going to be great. When Wallops gets to that stage, it's going to be great. And we're there. I mean, like Steve said, that's the 19th resupply flight from Wallops of the space station. And it was flawless. There's a lot of tourism money that comes in, just people visiting the area. The estimate on that is about $150 million. And then there's the local impact from having scientists, support people, engineers who are locating to the area, and that's between $350 and $550 million a year in economic development to an area of the country and of our region that really was, kind of a backwater place for a long time.
So I want to turn to Wicomico County Executive Julie Giordano, who said that she's going to court to get the county council to provide an attorney in her battle over the 2 personnel positions. Where are we with this?
Yeah, so she has filed 2 lawsuits. Basically, she's filed 2 writs of mandamus with the Wicomico County Circuit Court. And what she's asking for, she filed a pro se, which means she has no lawyer. She's asking for a judge to rule that she be entitled to a lawyer so she could take this to a court setting for either arbitration or for some kind of ruling. There's lots of legal debate about whether the county can sue itself, whether the executive branch can sue the legislative branch. There's a well-established theory that a government cannot sue itself, so this might end up being in an arbitration phase, but this is going to last a long time. What escalated this was on Tuesday, the county council voted to zero fund these two positions, so the employees that she has put in without their approval can't get paid. That's what triggered her action. That resolution will pass on a second reading, and then she will, of course, veto it. In order to veto it, the veto would have to be overridden, which it would be, and that will add time to it. There's a 20-day window for her to veto it. Then there's another 60 days for it to get to a ruling situation after that. So it's going to be a long process. We're going to be dealing with this well into the fall. But lots of tension on the council. There was kind of a yelling battle at a meeting Tuesday night. She gave a news conference yesterday in which she was very critical of the council, very over the top in her criticism. And they have reacted very stoically to this thing. They have not turned up the volume on it at all. But she is really unhappy, and she's making that clear.
Because one of the quotes I saw from the council president, John Cannon, was it said, "It may be her administration, but it's our county."
Yeah, that was kind of brutal what he said. That was in reaction to what she said. She kept making the point this was her administration, that she has the right to hire the people that she wants. There is a checks and balances system, so the county council does have to sign off, so the county executive can't hire just like their friends or people who might not be competent. The council has a role, just as in the U.S. Senate has a role to confirm appointees by the president. It's a very similar situation. She did say several times that if she fails as a county executive, it's going to be the county council's fault because they didn't give her the team that she wanted. The 30,000-foot look at this thing, though, is that the county right now, the county is really in a bad situation in terms of its leadership. I think these relationships are broken forever. She's not even a year into her first term, and what's going to happen now in terms of the benefit of the county, getting things done, big questions whether these people are ever going to get along.
So how significant are these positions, not so much in their intrinsic value to the county, but the fact that they were sort of temporary things until they finally get somebody that's permanent? I mean, it just seems as if she's going to court in a case where it's going to be maybe moot down the road.
Yeah, exactly. The public works director is certainly the most important position, and there's an agreement that the person that she had nominated on an acting basis probably was not qualified for that position. Qualified for other jobs within public works, but not qualified to lead the department. So that's been the big question. She said she has an interview next week with someone who is a good candidate that she will probably hire for public works director if she can. So that situation is going to resolve itself, I think, with a hiring. If the council approves of this new hiring, maybe she's going to pick somebody who is completely qualified under all there's a charter declaration about what the quality should be for the person. The job listing that they've floated for potential hirees is even more involved than what the charter requires. So we'll see if this person is qualified. So that might resolve itself. The problem is this deputy county administrator position. It's not that big of a job. I mean, it's a very important job, and it's crucial to the county executive. It's someone who really helps the director of administration, who's Bunky Luffman. But it's not that critical a job. I think I made a point in my last story where John Pesota basically did those three jobs for 3 years, where he was county executive, director of administration, and the deputy director of administration all on his own. So it's an important job, but is it worth dying for politically and in terms of damaging the county's reputation everywhere? I'm not sure.
Do we expect this thing then to go on for some time because this at least other position has not been filled? I mean, or do we have any sense about the timeline here?
Yeah, I think we're looking at an October situation before there's any resolution, and then we'll also decide whether the court will rule if they'll actually act as a court. If a judge will do it as a legal issue, or if they'll ask for an arbitrator to come in. She has said that she would accept the ruling of the judge, regardless whether it was in her favor or not. Will she still do that if it's just an arbitrator, not a judge? I'm not sure. But there are so many different pieces to this chess game to be played as we go on. So I'm not looking for any real resolution until October, maybe November.
I just want to follow up on finally one point, which is you've said that you feel that the relationship between the county executive and the county council may be permanently broken. Do you think that's true?
I think it is.
And why is that? I mean, what happened?
she wants to be in charge. They want to be in charge. And I've used this analogy forever. I mean, she's driving the bus. They're holding the map. I think that they want to drive the bus or all work together. There's definitely some, they have questions about her competence and the way she treats them. She is very unhappy with the way they treat her. She declares it's all very personal. She cited several times yesterday and even on Tuesday night that she had sent emails to them explaining her position, and no one had replied to her emails. No one had even acknowledged receiving her emails. She said she did finally receive one email from one council member, but it was not helpful. So she's taking all this very personally, and it's become a personal battle. It's very much a shame for the county because there's a lot that needs to get done. And we had some traction on this sewer plan for the county, which is needed. I think now it's going to take a public health crisis to get these people really lined up in the right way. I think for the greater good, they'll do the right thing in the end, but you need a public works director to get this thing going, and you need some sort of cohesion because we've got to go to Annapolis and ask for money, and Annapolis can smell out if people aren't getting along and there's going to be problems, and they're not going to give money to a group that is in turmoil.
Susan, I want to turn to you. And the fact that we have now another candidate to fill Delaware's lone congressional seat, that incumbent Lisa Blunt Rochester has decided to take a shot at the Senate seat being vacated by Tom Carper. His name is Eugene Young. What do we know about him?
Yes, Don, Eugene Young is the third candidate for Congress in Delaware. The current Congresswoman, as you said, Lisa Blunt Rochester, is giving up that seat to run for U.S. Senate now that Senator Tom Carper is retiring. Also running and already having filed for that seat are State Senator Sarah McBride, as well as State Treasurer Colleen Davis. And most recently, Eugene Young has filed. He's a 41-year-old Democrat. He's the husband of a professor, and he's also the father of two young children, 8 years old and 5 years old. A few years ago, he was named the director of the Delaware Housing Authority by Governor John Carney. He's a native and a resident of Wilmington, and I talked to him this week. Very pleasant, polite young man, very thoughtful young man. I was very impressed with him. He told me he wants to work to improve universal health coverage. He'd like to make housing more affordable, uphold reproductive rights, and support small businesses. He said he's very passionate about helping people who are on the margins of society. He wants to advocate for those in poverty, for men and women of color who are seeking assistance, who want a better life for their children. His mother was a teacher, and during his childhood, she always stressed the importance of education. His father worked for the Boeing Air and Space, and he told Eugene Young, from childhood, there's more to life than just you. Mr. Young told me his call to service began about 20 years ago. He said he looked around his neighborhood, the neighborhood that he grew up in the Wilmington area, and he realized it was still facing the same issues 20 years later. So at that time, he co-founded Delaware Elite, and that's a youth leadership development program that mentors youth and helps them with their education and with their goals, helps them get into college and stay away from all the temptations of the street, drugs and crime and guns and things that, that turn young people's lives upside down. So he was very passionate about that. He ran for mayor of Wilmington in 2016, and he said he ran a really good campaign, and he lost by only 234 votes. So since then, he decided he wants to run for Congress, and he's determined to keep working to make a difference, Don. Very interesting young man.
As I read his biography, he has been seen, at least by a number of people in Delaware, as an up-and-coming political entity. Is that right?
Yeah, he certainly is up and coming. He's very ambitious. He has a lot of good ideas. He's been involved with some housing initiatives in Delaware. He is now certainly involved as the director. He started a couple other nonprofits to try to help youth, to try to help those who are troubled. Interestingly, he told me that he wants to help people who are ordinary working people who take a shower at the end of the day instead of at the beginning of the day, who work and get dirty and are not, white-collar people who make who make a lot of money. He wants to help people who are really trying hard and struggling. So, yes, up and coming, I would definitely say up and coming, and I definitely think we'll see good things coming from Eugene Young, Don.
Now, does he have any party backing at all? I know that State Senator Sarah McBride seems to have been scarfing up most of the, at least, establishment Democrats.
It's so early to tell. He does have the governor's backing, of course, but so does she. The governor has spoken very highly of both of them. It's kind of early to tell. He just filed just like a week or so ago, but I will guarantee you, he's the type of young man who will get the support that he needs. He's as my mother would say, he's a go-getter. He's ambitious, and I think we'll see him get very close. If he doesn't win, get very close. And if he doesn't win, I guarantee you we'll see him run again. He's not the type of guy to disappear into the shadows. He will keep trying to help. And with people like Sam McBride and Eugene Young, I don't know Colleen Davis very well. I hear wonderful things about her. With people like that, the state can only benefit. There's no downfall no matter which of these three wins this seat.
Greg, I want to turn to you. We've got a new soccer team, and it's got a new name. Salisbury Stakes.
Salisbury Stake, yes. They are in the Major Arena League 3, and I know I should know what that is, but I don't. I guess there's a Major Arena League 1 and 2. I don't know. They got their name from a Name the Team contest that had more than 4,000 entries. They're going to play at Crown Sports. Their first game is December 9th at 7 o'clock. I think that's a Friday night. They're owned by a man named Josh Danza, who also owns a team in Baltimore, the Baltimore Kings. A lot of excitement with this. I kind of missed it. I heard about it, but I had not heard anything about it officially. But a lot of people just in the last few days have asked me about it. So it's gaining traction, and some people are very excited that we're going to have indoor soccer played by semi-professional people right here in Salisbury.
How popular are these kinds of these teams, as it were? I know, for instance, up in Delaware, I think in Sussex County, they have a hockey team now, Thunder something or other.
Yeah.
But it seems as if there's this continuous building of various semi-pro teams and lots of activities in terms of trying to draw people in.
Yeah, it's a great venue down there at Crown. I don't know if they've changed the seating. I guess they'll have seating to accommodate everyone that they need. But great facility, great fields, great lighting, and it's going to be. I can't see where this thing could possibly lose. Our generation, maybe we're more attached to football and baseball, but I know my kids, their generation is all about lacrosse and soccer. And, right now with the World Cup, my daughter's completely focused on soccer. So I think generationally, there's a lot of room for, some intrigue with a team like this in Salisbury.
By the way, one other thing I want to touch on, which is apparently it's a battle over the parking lots and redevelopment of downtown Salisbury. It's taken another turn with Randy Taylor, owner of the Thomas R. Young building, that apparently they're hiring a lawyer to see whether or not they can push back on some of the parking lot situation. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so there is a business group that is still not satisfied with some of the city's answers on parking. The city has really bent over backwards to try to explain things. These things were worked out in public, but I guess people weren't paying attention the way they should have, or maybe we didn't cover it as deeply as we should have. But either way, the information's out there. There's just some questions about what happens when buildings get built on these city lots that forever have been parking lots. There is a plan near Mr. Taylor's property to build a parking garage underneath a retail residential complex. How all this is going to work out and what the time is going to be, no one's sure. There was that lot 15, which is across the street from the Opportunity Shop, which is right behind his property that's been an open lot. The expectation was that would remain open, but now it's going to be part of the development of Lot 1. So that's where the concerns are. They're not, I don't think, at a lawsuit stage. They're just going to get a lawyer to try to help them when they appear at public meetings. They were supposed to be at the planning and zoning meeting yesterday in Salisbury. I need to find out what happened there. Maybe they had their lawyer with them there, but they just have a lot of questions about what the plans are and how it's going to impact their businesses and the value of their properties.
Because one of the issue that I understand is that at least this issue is that there's a promise of proportional amount of parking in terms of who they are, and they argue that at least the current plan violates that proportion.
Yeah, and that's a question of the numbers within the parking. But one of the concerns is that the developer builds the parking garage with city funding, paying for part of the garage, and that garage is just going to be used by the tenants of that building and the users of that building. But the city, if the developer's accepting money from the city and the city's accepting money from any of the federal or state governments, there has to be parking for the public. Now, whether the people who occupy that building will take up that public parking or not, is another question, but the city has promised that they're going to make provisions so that there will be plenty of parking for everyone. But there's just a lot of suspicion that the city's not going to come through on that.
You've been looking at this a long time. Are you convinced that the city's worked out all the numbers? I mean, I talked to the mayor, I guess, the other day, and he assured me that, yes, all the numbers were going to be there, that they were going to be able to accommodate, and that they would make adjustments if that needed.
Right.
I mean, have they really nailed it down, or is it still fluid, do you think?
I think they have. I listen to the businesses that are concerned, and I'm concerned along with them because I don't want to get snowed on this thing. But just how the city's reacted to this controversy. I mean, they were able to find, 38 different parking spaces on Circle Avenue to accommodate people who were worried about losing that parking on the east side of Lot 1. The top of that lot in the middle of downtown. So, the city has gone out of its way, I think, to accommodate these concerns. They've made changes in the parking garages. They're implementing this ambassador program where they're going to have people walk around, and if anyone looks like they're in distress in a car trying to figure out where to park, someone will help guide them, provide a level of security to downtown, to that parking garage. I park in the parking garage every day. I've never had a problem, but I know there are a lot of people who maybe aren't familiar with parking garages and are concerned when they go in there what they're going to find.
And I want to turn to you, Susan, because the Mariners United Methodist Church is affiliated with the Global Methodist Church after disaffiliating with the other organization. What's the significance of this?
That's what it looks like among the many United Methodist churches in the area that have disaffiliated from another church is Mariners, Bethel, United Methodist Church, and Ocean View. Churches have been disaffiliating in Salisbury and Delaware and all around the country for several reasons. But the main reason keeps coming back to the fact that some bishops are ordaining homosexual pastors. And traditional United Methodist members feel that is against the church's book of discipline. There are a few other reasons as well, like a push to change language and even some prayers to include everyone and not be gender specific. The pastor of Mariners, who is the Reverend Rebecca Collison, told me that one of the things that was considered changing was a phrase from the prayer, the Our Father who art in heaven portion of the Lord's Prayer. There was a push to change it to Our Parent or something else that was not specifically speaking of a male. And those things are against the United Methodist Church's book of discipline and way too liberal and progressive for them. So Mariners got permission to disaffiliate in June, and that was approved during the annual conference in Princess Anne. Now the church members have voted to become a global Methodist church. I talked to Dennis Rader at the church. He's the acting chairman of parish relations. He told me the global Methodist denomination is more scripture-based. He said global Methodists will allow homosexual pastors as long as they are not in a relationship and sexually active. And I asked him if that is reasonable because it seems kind of ridiculous to me. And he said he didn't know. He said, I don't know where God is leading people. I have enough trouble trying to figure out where God is leading me. So now the next step is the church members will have a chance to hear about global Methodism in 2 or 3 different sessions that the church is planning, and the church members are going to register for those sessions and listen and learn more about global Methodism before they take an official vote. But it looks like that's the way they're going. That means that the name will change. Probably it will change to Mariners Bethel Global Methodist Church. All of the signs and posters in the church and around the church that say United Methodist or that have the UM logo will be taken down. The stationery, the business cards will change, and, of course, new signs will be put up. It's a little too soon to know exactly when all of this will take effect, but it looks like within the next few months, Mariners, a very, very well-known United Methodist Church in Ocean View, attended by hundreds of people, very well-known church, will switch now and become a global Methodist church.
I think we'll also have the upcoming powwow, as it were, for Natticoke. What are the preparations supposed to be in September?
Yes, the annual powwow. When fall comes, everybody in Delaware looks for the dates for the powwow. It's a very popular event. This year is the 45th annual powwow, and it's set for September 9th and 10th, Saturday, September 9th, and Sunday, September 10th, and it's going to be in Milton, at Hudson Fields in Milton, and it'll start at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning with the grand entry. The powwow is always a lot of fun. There are dancers, and there are Native American foods like fry bread, Indian tacos, succotash, hot dogs, hamburgers, flavored ices. There are vendors there that have blankets and toys for the children, little bracelets and change purses, beadwork, arts and crafts. There will be a little place for the children to do their own arts and crafts and get their faces painted. There's a car show, and there will also be a bird show, like an exhibition of birds in association with the Delaware Museum of Natural History, and there will be a kind of a tribute to those killed on September 11th, 2001. So it should be a good time. There is an admission charge. I think it's like $5 or $6 for the admission charge. It's not very much. It's always very crowded, so get there early so you'll find a place to park. There's a lot of walking. But it's a nice day. It's very educational, and it's nice to learn about the Nanticokes. Everyone is very friendly and willing to talk and get their pictures taken. They're in full regalia when they have the grand entry, and they come out and dance. The Indians, Nanticoke Indians, are in full regalia, and they're very willing to explain what everything means. So it's a really good time. If you have a chance, take the drive up to Milton. It's a long drive, but it's worth it to see the annual powwow.
We've been speaking with Greg Bassett. He's editor and general manager of the Salisbury Independent. Also on the phone with us, Susan Canfor, reporter for Coastal Point. Appreciate both of you chatting with us.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you, Don.
You're listening to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush.
Delmarva Today with Don Rush.